On a clear night, I stood staring at the sky, hooked yet spooked by the stars flickering weirdly above. They pulsed like some creepy code I couldn't crack, whispering stuff just out of reach. I'm Gaspar, 31, a ranger at Parque Nacional de Los Picos de Europa in northern Spain. Scary horror stories. Park ranger is my life now. I've always loved tracing constellations, finding comfort in their patterns, but that night hit different, buzzing with a vibe that chilled me to the bone. Next morning, dawn broke, and I found a rabbit dead on the trail, still perfect, except its eyes were gone, cut out clean like surgery. Whatever took them left the rest, a hollow shell, staring at nothing. My gut twisted. This wasn't normal, not here in my woods. I spend my days with rustling leaves and bird songs, but lately I've been pulled to the night sky. My astronomy obsession kicking in hard. These past weeks, though, the stars have gone off, their usual twinkle swapped for freaky flashes that mess with my head. Deer, rabbits, even birds. Dead ones keep popping up in the brush, all eyeless, marking the forest. With a quiet terror I can't shake off. Each find chips away at the peace this job used to give me, turning it into something dark. The woods in Leon feel alive now, watching me back. I can't dodge this gnawing feeling. Something's out there, lurking in the shadows, tracking my every move. My abuela's old stories creep into my head, tales of night-prowling beings hunting the innocent. I used to laugh them off as kid stuff, but now they echo loud, a spooky nudge about what's hiding out there. Nights are rough now, full of jittery thoughts. I started piecing it together. The stars aren't just stars anymore. They're signals, maybe from something alien, something beyond us. Those flickers could be eyes up there, watching, and each missing pair down here a peek into some messed up reality trying to bust in. The idea sends shivers racing down my spine. I've guarded these woods my whole life, but now I'm up against something I can't even wrap my head around. The thought of being next, of those starry eyes picking me, twists my stomach into knots. Sometimes I swear the sky's patterns follow me, playing a sick game of cat and mouse. The forest, my old safe spot, feels like a cage now, shadows heavy with doom. The trees whisper as I push through the thickets, their branches like twisted fingers warning me off. I can't shake this urgency. It's like a fog I'm stuck in. The more I dig, the more I find, but every answer just spins me deeper into questions I can't solve. It's a maze, and I'm lost in it. I keep moving, boots crunching, feeling the weight of something big closing in. The woods aren't mine anymore, they're its, whatever it is. Then night falls, and that's when it all goes nuts. Something wild I can't even start to explain. The sun dipped low, painting the trees in a creepy glow, and dread hit me like a brick. The forest shifted, shadows got thick, crickets went quiet. I wasn't alone out there. I headed back to the clearing where I'd found that rabbit, chasing answers in the mess. Stepping in, I saw her, Elena, a ranger I've worked with tons, silhouetted against the dusk. "Gaspar," she called, voice tight with worry. "You've seen them too, right? The animals?" Her eyes, usually lit up for nature, were dark with fear. I nodded, a silent vibe linking us right then. "It's more than that. The stars. They're off, like they're talking to us." She moved closer, frowning hard. I thought I was losing it. I've been tracking the eyeless stuff in those lights. Something's out there watching us. Her words hung heavy, nailing down what I'd been dodging. The forest was a stage now, and we were stuck in its weird play. A rustle snapped us around. Miguel, the local stargazer nut, stumbled out, pale and panting. He's all about UFOs and wild theories, but tonight he looked scared stiff. "You've seen it?" he wheezed. "The lights, they're closer now, not just up there anymore." My throat went dry. "What do you mean?" I asked, voice low, barely holding it together. Miguel's eyes flicked around, spooked. "I saw one land by the quarry. Last night, a silver ship, quiet. It was scanning, and then the eyes. It took them, like it needed them. Elena and I locked eyes, the stars, the eyes. It clicked into something ugly, a puzzle taking shape. "Let's hit the quarry," Elena said, a spark firing her up. "If Miguel's right, we've got to see it." Miguel shook his head, freaking out. "It's dangerous. They're alive. They want us." But I felt it. A pull to the quarry, a need to face this head on. I was done waiting, done wondering. We set off, the dark swallowing us as we went. The air got quiet, eerie, just our boots. Snapping twigs on the path to the quarry. Miguel lagged, muttering like a nut. "You don't get it," he said again. "It's tied to us, to what's buried inside." His words hit me, my past. The guilt over losing my sister here years back. I'd always thought I could have saved her. The trees still whisper it sometimes. "Gaspar," Elena's voice cut in, worried. "You good?" She saw me drift, caught in old ghosts. I nodded, but it was messy inside. My sister's loss that summer, it's shaped me, and now it's tangled up with this nightmare. The ground shook sudden and hard, knocking me off balance. "What's that?" I yelled, fear spiking as it got worse. "The quarry!" Miguel pointed. A blinding light shot up from it, twisting shadows all around us. I shielded my eyes, heart racing. Then a roar split the earth open, throwing us back. With rocks and dirt, I scrambled up, and there it was. A thing human-ish, but not. Eyes glowing like stars. "Gaspar!" Elena gasped, shaking. "It looks like..." Miguel cut in, whispering. "Like us, it's our hidden stuff, our pain." The air snapped with power, and memories hit. My sister laughing, crying, gone. This thing was my guilt, alive and staring. Got it then? This wasn't just some alien deal. It was us, our pasts cracking open. The truth was spilling out. My sister's face flashed in its eyes, and an awful thought hit. What if we're all part of this? The animals, the lights, all. "Our buried junk? Stay close," I said, voice firming up. "We face this together, our pasts and this thing." That thing stood there, pulsing, creepy as hell. Half us, half something else. I stepped up, heart banging. "What do you want?" I yelled, words flying out. The air went tight, Elena gripping on my arm hard. "It wants us to see," Miguel said, terrified. "Our buried stuff." I saw it then. It wasn't just a monster, it was me. My sister's cries all twisted up in its starry eyes. My guilt, raw and real. "Together," I said, looking at them. Their faces showed the same hurt, but a spark of grit, too. "We can't let it win." It wailed, sad and loud, pulling back a bit. My breath caught. It was our sorrow screaming. "Back at us! Gaspar!" Elena snapped. "We've got to face our past, not just this." Her voice lit me up inside. She was right. I nodded, clarity hitting. "We've run too long. This is us, and we've got to own it." Miguel edged up, wild-eyed. "What if it takes us? What if we lose it all? Or gain it all?" I shot. "Back, stronger now. This is our shot to break free." Its eyes flicked, showing my sister, sorry, regret. "I'm sorry," I whispered, letting it out, raw and real. It froze, like it heard me, and I felt it. Pain's not just heavy. "It's a way out, maybe?" "Now!" I yelled. "Together! Face it! Take it! Let go!" We reached out, the world melting into light and dark, fates tangled tight. I felt them with me, their guts fueling mine. As we touched it, the ground blew. Up, yanking us deeper into whatever came next. We fell fast, a rush of fear and weird calm mixing in. The thing's energy swirled, wrapping us tight, and Elena's hand slipped away. I freaked for a sec. Then it stopped. We hit cold ground, gasping. The creature was gone, just bits of light and shadow fading out. "Alive?" Miguel croaked. Voice shot. I nodded, heavy inside, feeling it linger in my head still. "For now," I said, chest tight. Elena got up, shaky, brushing off dirt in this weird blue-silver place. "What happened?" she asked, eyeing the shifting shapes. "Old memories floating around us." I whispered, "We faced it, but it's still with us." The scars stayed, my guilt, their hurts, all raw now. We'd beat it, but it left us exposed. My sister's loss, Elena's fear, Miguel's doubt staring back. "Look." Elena pointed. A portal glowed ahead, but a shadow lurked near it, dark and messy. "What's that?" I asked, stepping back, heart racing again. "Feels familiar," Miguel said, nervous, as it flickered. Our pasts, happy and sad, screaming, loud. My sister's laugh mixed with her cries in it. I hadn't faced her fully, not yet. The weight hit hard. "We've got to choose," Elena said, steady but scared. "Go through or face that shadow?" It lunged, dark and hungry. I chilled. "Quick!" I yelled, panic spiking as it closed in. "Together," I said, firm. We'd survived, but the road wasn't done. We had to keep facing it. The portal sucked us in, colors and feelings smashing together. Time froze, hearts pounding loud. We landed soft, but it wasn't safe. Just off, creepy, quiet all around. Mirrors lined this dim room, showing not us but our fears. I saw my terror eyeless, staring back. "Elena, Miguel," I yelled, but their faces were gone, just mine in. The glass, trapped and wild. A shadow hissed, "Welcome back." All my doubts rolled into one. You swapped one cage for another. It wasn't outside us, it was us, our messed up insides coming alive. I'd delayed the real fight. "Your choices brought you here," it sneered, shifting closer. This wasn't just facing it, it was seeing us rot. My stomach dropped. We weren't free, we were stuck, maybe doomed to this dark mirror. "Together," I whispered. Too late, mirrors shattered, glass flying, and I screamed as it all twisted away. Alone in the black, my sister's laugh and cries spun around me. I'd picked, but not the right way. If you like this tale, hit like and subscribe for more. Share it with friends, pull them into the dark. Comment your favorite bit or what ending you want next. I was trudging through the thick mess of Daintree when it hit me. What if this ground wasn't just dirt under my boots, but something alive, pulsing with a mind of its own? The thought came out of nowhere, sharp and cold, and then I felt it, a eased hum, low and steady, vibrating up through my soles. I stopped dead, heart slamming against my ribs, and looked down. Roots were moving, twisting out of the soil like snakes, grabbing for my boots before slinking back underground. I'm Teodoro, 37, a ranger who spent years in this forest. It's been my safe spot, my jail cell, my everything. Every rustle of leaves, every gust of wind. It used to feel like a hello, a nod to why I'm here. I studied botany forever, fell hard for these plants, but lately, that love's been turning sour, twisting into something uneasy. For weeks, the forest had been off, way off. These weird, haunting tunes started echoing up from the earth, popping up out of nowhere, threading through the trees like ghosts singing. The old trunks, usually just standing there quiet, were reacting, roots shifting, reaching, like they were after something they'd lost ages ago. A chill crawled up my back. This place wasn't sleeping anymore. It was waking up. Those roots weren't just creepy. They were a warning, a sign of something dark brewing. One night, heading back to my little place in Port Douglas, I tripped over a stone tablet, half buried under vines. It was old, scratched up with symbols I didn't know, but touching it made my stomach drop. Whispers kicked up, old voices on. The wind, talking about a goddess locked away by people long gone. That's when it clicked. The roots weren't hunting for food. They were clawing for freedom. My breath caught, and I got it. This wasn't some oddity. It was a nightmare cracking open. I had to keep people safe, me included. But how do you fight something that's starving to wake up and live again? Kept moving deeper, the air getting thick, heavy with something waiting to snap. My dad's stories weighed on me, tales of land spirits keeping the balance. He'd drilled respect into me, but had he ever hinted at what happens when you wake? The giant sleeping under it all? I couldn't remember, and that scared me more. Then, a rustle, sharp and close, yanked me back. My heart thudded loud, too loud. Was it the roots again or something worse? The forest, my old friend, was turning into a maze of shadows and whispers, every step pulling me towards something I couldn't name. The sun dipped low, stretching long, twisted shadows, and I knew night was about to change everything. Standing there, half frozen with fear, and half itching to know more, the rustling got louder, too loud to ignore. A figure shoved through the vines, fast and frantic, and my heart jumped into my throat. It was Sophia, my ranger buddy, the one person I could count on out here. Her face was pale, eyes huge, nothing like her usual grin. "Teodoro," she panted, out of breath. "You've got to see this." Her voice shook, and that scared me. She didn't rattle easy. "The roots, they're moving everywhere, not just here. I've seen them all over the forest." Her words slammed into me, piling on the dread I'd been carrying. I swallowed hard, trying to keep steady. "I know, found something too. A tablet, old carvings? Think it's tied to this." My voice sounded thin, like it wasn't mine. Sophia stepped closer, worry creasing her face. "What if they're breaking free? What if it's pissed?" I nodded, slow, my brain spinning. "We've got to warn the crew. This isn't natural anymore. It's like the Earth's gearing up for a fight, but who's going to buy it?" Doubt chewed at me. Rangers aren't built for ghost stories, and this sounded nuts, even to me. The ground twitched under us, a soft tremble, and a low, sad note hummed through the trees. The air buzzed, electric, like a storm about to break. "We can't stay," I said, urgency kicking in. "Need to find the others, figure this out before it's too late." Sophia's eyes locked on mine. She was in. I turned to lead her back, but a crack split the air. A huge branch crashed down, damn near hitting us. The ground shook hard, tossing us off balance. "Run!" I yelled, and we bolted, vines snagging at us like claws. The forest was waking up, angry and alive, chasing us down. We stumbled into a clearing, lights flickering ahead. Other rangers huddled tight, faces pale and spooked. Marcus, the old-timer who never flinched, spotted us. "Teodoro! Sophia, you're here!" Relief hit his voice, but it faded quick when he saw our panic. "What's going on?" The air was heavy, tense, as I caught Sophia's nod. "Go for it." "The forest's changing," I said, raw. "Roots moving, a tablet I found. It's waking something old. We're not safe." My words hung there, shaky but real, and I saw Marcus's face harden. "Waking something?" he said, frowning, swapping looks with the group. "You're saying this is some ancient thing? Sounds like tourist bait, Teodoro." Doubt rippled through the others. I could see it, feel it, and it stung. They weren't wrong to question. I'd have done the same a month ago. "It's real." I pushed, voice climbing. "I feel it. You've got to trust me. We need a perimeter, need to get ready. If those roots want out, we're in deep." My chest tightened, pleading with them to see what I saw, to feel what I felt. Then Lila stepped. Up, biologist, skeptic, always rolling her eyes at my dad's tales. "Teodoro, this is folklore," she said, sharp. "You can't run on stories without proof." Her words cut, but I got it. She lived by facts, and I was asking for a leap. Frustration boiled up. "Proof's under us," I snapped. "What? If we're waking it right now?" My voice cracked, desperation spilling out. The air thickened, everyone's fear bubbling up, and I knew this wasn't just about the forest anymore. It was us against ourselves. Marcus broke the standoff, gruff. "Fine, we'll grab gear, stay sharp, check it out together." Relief hit, but it was thin. The group muttered, unsure, splitting off to prep. I watched them, knowing the real fight wasn't just out there. It was in here, in our heads. As we moved, that dread stuck with me. Whatever was waking up, it wasn't done. The moon climbed high, glowing eerie through the trees, and I felt it. This was step one. The deeper we dug, the more we'd tangle with something bigger, our fears, our pasts, all wrapped up in this living nightmare. The others scrambled for gear, but I couldn't shake this weight, like a fist squeezing my chest. I stared at this ground, alive now, humming under us, and my dad's voice crept in. Stories of spirits, guardians, curses for messing with the balance. I'd laughed them off as a kid, but they were clawing at me now, real and loud. "Teodoro!" Sophia's voice cut through, soft but firm. "You good." She was close, worry all over her face. I forced a smile, shaky. "Yeah, just thinking." Truth was, I was sinking. Those carvings, that tablet, they weren't just old junk. They were a door I'd cracked open. What if it's not just a ranger thing, I whispered, barely audible. What if I'm meant for this, to stop it? Sophia frowned, leaning in. What are you saying? Her eyes searched mine, digging for something I wasn't sure I had. I glanced at the crew huddled tight, then back at her. Dad talked about a legacy, rangers tied to the land, special-like. Thought he was full of it, but I stopped, his face flashing in my head, intense, like he knew this day'd come. What if he was right? What if I'm in this deeper? Sophia's look softened, curious but scared. You think you're... I cut in, voice trembling. Maybe I'm not just here to guard it. Maybe I'm part of it, its heart or something. The words felt wild, but they fit, like a piece snapping into place. Before she could answer, the ground jolted hard, knocking us sideways. I caught myself, but the others stumbled, panic sparking in their eyes. What the hell? Marcus roared, his cool cracking wide open. The air buzzed, thick and wrong. Then, movement, dark and quick, from the trees. A figure slid out, shadowy, blurry but real. My heart raced, squinting to see it clear. A scream ripped through, sharp, raw, tearing the night apart. Lila, I yelled, spinning as she hit the dirt, shaking like something grabbed her soul. Help? Her! I shouted, rushing over, but a wave hit me. Visions, fast and loud, of old rangers, rituals, blood on the ground. I staggered, grabbing my head. I see it, I gasped, dizzy. The roots, they're remembering. It wasn't just moving. It was alive with memory. Sophia's hand clamped my arm, hard. Focus. What do you see? Her voice anchored me, pulling me back. A connection, I muttered, the truth slamming home. It's not just the forest. It's us. We're tied to it. Our pasts, our fears, all knotted up with this place, Lila Lee, twitched on the ground, eyes rolling back, lost to whatever grabbed her. This is the start, I said, voice rough. The figure watched, silent, and I knew. We weren't just fighting roots or shadows. We were fighting ourselves, our history, everything we'd buried. The forest pulsed, alive, syncing with my heartbeat. Lila's screams faded to whimpers, a brutal reminder we were on the edge of something huge. What's happening? I yelled, voice breaking against the noise. Leaves, thunder, that damn hum. The shadow figure loomed, taunting, drawing me in. Teodoro! Sophia snapped me back, desperate. We've got to help her? I nodded, lunging for Lila. She was more than a ranger. She was family. The forest wanted her, but I wouldn't. Let it win. Not yet. Not her. Marcus barreled in, all grit. Back off! I've got this! He threw himself at the shadows, arms up like a shield. I wanted to stop him, yell it'd make it worse, but my throat locked. The darkness swallowed him, and I felt it, a jolt, the forest's pain, its rage, hitting me like a punch. The ground shook again, roots twitching, and I knew we were in deep, too deep. The figure hissed, "You can't stop this." And I realized it wasn't just about saving Lila or Marcus. It was about facing what I'd stirred up, what I was part of. The forest's heartbeat thumped louder, syncing with mine, and Lila's cries drilled into me. She was slipping away. What's doing this? I yelled, voice raw, glaring at that shadowy thing. It didn't move, just watched, like it enjoyed the chaos. I had to act, but my legs felt glued. Sophia grabbed me, shaking. We're losing her. Her panic lit. A fire in me. I couldn't let them go. Dad's voice echoed, guardians, balance, and I got it. This wasn't random. The forest wanted something, blood maybe, or us, and I'd cracked the door open. Marcus! I shouted, but he was gone, swallowed up. A scream tore from Lila, sharp and fading, and I snapped. No more! I roared, digging deep, reaching for something, anything, to fight back. I'm here! I'm part of you! I yelled at the trees, desperate. Roots shot up, wrapping my ankles, not pulling, holding like they heard me. My chest buzzed, alive, and I felt it, the forest waking. To me, not against me. The shadow flinched, just a twitch, and I saw my shot. Something glinting in the dark, sharp and bright, tangled in the roots. There! I pointed, voice cracking. A dagger, old, glowing, poked out, calling me. The shadow lunged, claws swiping, but I dove, fingers brushing metal. A jolt hit, hot, wild, and I grabbed it, the forest's energy pouring in, screaming through my veins. "Help me!" I yelled, scrambling up, shadows clawing closer. Sophia nodded fierce, dodging the dark. "Use it!" she shouted, and I raised the dagger. Its carvings pulsed, alive. The shadows hissed, backing off, like they knew what it could do. I slammed it into the dirt, and light exploded, bright, blinding, ripping through the dark. Roots surged, weaving a wall, pushing the shadows back. Screams, high, awful, filled the air, but I held on, pouring everything into that blade, tying myself to this place. Marcus stumbled out, pale, coughing. Alive, thank God. "What the hell?" he gasped, eyes wild. I panted, spent. "Don't! No, but we're here." The shadows pulled back, fading, but not gone, leaving a sting in my side, a dark bruise, a mark of this fight. Lila stirred, weak. "What happened?" she croaked. I knelt, grabbing her hand, relief hitting hard. Forrest flipped out. I said, soft. "We fought it off. You're okay." Sophia crouched too, unsure. "Did we win?" she asked, voice thin. I looked at the dagger, still stuck in the ground, glowing faint. "For now," I said, heavy. "But there's more. This isn't over." The forest hummed, alive again, whispering secrets I couldn't catch. A path lit up ahead, pulling us deeper. We stood shaky but together, the trees buzzing around us. Marcus nodded, grim. "Explore it?" I met his eyes, scared but in. "Yeah, together." Lila gripped my hand, weak but tough. "Count me in," she rasped. We'd changed. This place had scarred us, bound us. That path glowed, daring us. On, and I felt it. The forest wasn't done. Shadows lingered, watching, waiting. We'd held them off, but the big fight was still out there, lurking in the dark we hadn't touched yet. I took a breath, heart pounding, as we edged down that path. The ground rumbled, soft, a warning, and the air thickened, heavy with something mean. The dagger's light dimmed, but it stayed. A sign we weren't out, just holding ground. A figure slipped out ahead, dark, huge, the forest's anger wrapped in shadow. "You shouldn't have," it hissed. 1,000 voices twisted. In pain, my dagger flickered, sensing it, and I knew this wasn't the end. It was the start of something worse. "Teodoro," Sophia whispered, shaky. "What now?" I stared at it, dread coiling tight. "We get ready," I said, voice hard, "and we find help. Others who know this dark." The shadow loomed, waiting, and I gripped the dagger, pulling it free. We moved deeper, no choice left. The shadows weren't done, and neither were we. This fight was bigger now, and we'd face it, not just for us, but for everything this forest held. Hey, if you like this creepy ride, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Share it with your buddies. Let them get spooked too. Drop a comment, favorite scare? Want more forest horrors? Tell me, I've got shadows to spare. I was trudging along the narrow trails of Campinos forest as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange and purple glow across the sky, when my shadow stretched impossibly long, reaching up to the treetops like it had a mind of its own. My name's Dariusz, a 33-year-old forest ranger in Poland, and that moment turned everything I thought I knew about these woods upside down. I've always been pulled here, drawn by the quiet dance of shadows and the whispers in the leaves. But that night something shifted, a presence lurking just beyond my flashlight's beam, waiting to step into the light. Back in the day, I was a carpenter, shaping wood in a dusty workshop, the smell of sawdust my constant companion. A few years ago, I swapped that for the crisp air of Campinos, craving its peace after life chewed me up and spit me out. It used to be my refuge, a place where the towering pines and soft trails smoothed out the rough edges of my soul until, recently, when the calm started cracking. That evening, I was on patrol, my flashlight slicing through the growing dark, its beam jittery in my grip. I aimed it at the ground, expecting the usual dirt and roots, but froze when I saw my shadow, longer than it should have been, stretching up like a giant swaying, even as I stood still. My heart slammed against my ribs, a cold shiver racing down my spine, and I told myself it was just the angle, the fading light playing tricks. The familiar path felt wrong, each step heavier than the last, like the air itself was pushing me down. I swung the light around and the trees stared back, gnarled, ancient, their twisted branches like fingers frozen mid-reach. I'd walked these trails 1,000 times, knew every bend, but tonight they twisted into a maze I didn't recognize, and the unease gnawed at me, relentless. Branches started snapping around me, sharp and rhythmic, like the forest was clapping for my arrival, or mocking me. I stumbled, spinning to check my shadow again, and it moved, bending, twisting, alive. In a way, it shouldn't have been. My breath hitched, sweat prickling my skin despite the chill, and I felt it, something watching, close but unseen. Memories crashed in uninvited. Jason, my little brother, his laugh echoing from years ago, then the screech of tires, the crash. That took him. Guilt's been my shadow ever since, a weight I've carried through every quiet moment. But this was different. It felt real, like the forest was digging into my head, pulling that pain out and giving it shape. I tried to shake it off, rationalize it. Maybe I was tired seeing things after too many late shifts. But the whispers started low and rustling through the leaves, a murmur I couldn't decode but felt personal, like the trees knew my secrets. My flashlight trembled, the beam dancing over the trunks, and I caught glimpses of shadows that weren't mine. I stopped, leaning against an oak to steady myself, its rough bark grounding me for a second. But then it pulsed, slow like a heartbeat under my palm, and I yanked my hand back, heart pounding. Was I losing it? The tree stood still, but the sensation lingered, a creeping dread that twisted my gut. Campinos wasn't my sanctuary tonight. It was a labyrinth, every rustle a threat, every shadow a blade hovering over me. The air buzzed, electric, lifting the hairs on my neck, and I felt eyes, not animal, not human, something else, something that knew me too well, waiting to pounce. Jason's face flashed again, his grin, then the blood, the wreck I couldn't stop. I'd always thought guilt was my ghost, but what if it was more? What if this forest I loved was alive, feeding on my regrets, turning them into something I couldn't outrun? The thought hit like a punch, and I gripped my flashlight tighter. The whispers grew, weaving through the trees, a chorus of secrets I couldn't grasp. I heard laughter, faint, distant, maybe Jason's, maybe a trick, and it sent a jolt through me, cold and sharp. My shadow stretched ahead, mocking me, a dark twin leading me deeper into the unknown. I pushed on the trail, bending under my boots, the forest closing in. My breath clouded in the chill, and I moved faster, needing answers, needing to know if this was my head breaking or Campinos turning against me. The night swallowed the last light, and I felt it shift, alive in a way I couldn't explain. Then it happened. The dark took over, and the forest woke up. Crickets faded, replaced by creaks and groans that didn't belong, a symphony of unease that drowned my thoughts. I stopped, chest heaving, and knew I wasn't alone. Something was here, and it wasn't waiting anymore. She stepped from the shadows, a woman in a tattered coat, hair spilling like vines. My flashlight caught her, shaking in my grip, and her voice cut through. "Darius, you shouldn't be here." It echoed, haunting and familiar, and my heart skipped, caught between fear and a strange recognition. I jolted back, flashlight trembling as I aimed it at her shadowy figure. "Who the hell are you?" I barked, my voice louder than I meant. A mix of fear and defiance spilling out. She didn't flinch, just stood there, her eyes glinting like they held a light of their own in the pitch black. "I'm Anya," she said, stepping closer, her ragged coat blending into the night, her hair wild like the forest itself. "I've been watching you, Darius. The forest's changing. It's pulling you in too." Her voice was soft but firm, slicing through the chaos in my head. "What do you mean changing?" I stammered, my throat dry as dust. The shadows. I thought I was losing it. My mind scrambled for something solid, but her face stayed serious. Those eerie eyes locking onto mine like she saw right through me. "It's not in your head," she said, her tone dropping low and grave. "The forest feeds on pain, on fear. It knows you're past what you've lost. You've got to face it, or it'll swallow you whole." Her words hit like a brick, peeling back layers I'd buried deep. I shook my head, taking a step back, the ground unsteady under me. "Face what? My brother? I can't. It's too damn heavy." My voice cracked, brittle with the guilt I'd carried since Jason's death, a weight I couldn't shake, now staring me down in these woods. "Then it'll face you," Anya warned, her voice steady but edged with something softer, like she cared. "The shadows will take everything you've got left if you don't fight back. I'm here to help. You just need to trust me." She held out a hand, calm and sure. I stared at her, my gut twisting in knots. Trust her? I didn't know her from a hole in the ground, but her voice, her presence, it felt real, like she'd walked this path before. Before I could answer, the earth rumbled, a deep groan shaking the trees, and a cold wind whipped through, sharp as a blade. "Darius," Anya shouted, her voice snapping me out of my haze. "Move, now!" The shadows surged, darker and faster, lunging from the trees like they'd heard her call. I grabbed her hand, adrenaline flooding me, and we bolted down the trail. The forest erupted around us, branches cracking like gunfire, the air thick with a roar that wasn't wind. My flashlight bounced, catching flashes of shapes. Too quick, too wrong, darting through the dark, closing in like wolves on a scent. "What's it want?" I yelled, dodging a root that nearly tripped me up. My lungs burned, my boots pounding the dirt. "Your regret," Anya panted back, ducking a low branch. "It feeds on your pain. We hit the heart, we might break it." Her words were a lifeline, pulling me forward. The trail twisted, trees leaning in, their silhouettes mocking us with jagged grins. My shadow stretched ahead, a grotesque twin mocking my every move. And I realized Anya wasn't just a stranger. She was my anchor in this storm, guiding me towards something I couldn't yet see. The growl grew louder, a deep rumble shaking my bones, and my light caught it. Glowing eyes in the bushes, massive and dark, something the forest had birthed to hunt us. I stumbled, heart slamming, but Anya yanked me on, her grip fierce and unyielding. We kept running, the shadows hot on our heels, Jason's voice whispering in my ears, blaming, pleading, tearing at me, but with Anya beside me, a flicker of hope sparked through the panic. Maybe, just maybe, we could face this nightmare together. Campinos wasn't woods anymore. It was a living beast, and I felt its breath on my neck, its hunger clawing at my back. With Anya's hand in mine, I wasn't alone, and that was enough to keep me moving, straight into whatever hell waited ahead. We crashed through the underbrush, the growl thundering behind us like a storm breaking loose, shaking the ground under my boots. My flashlight flickered, barely holding on, and Anya pulled me sharp left, off the trail, into the thick tangle of bushes and thorns that snagged my coat like claws. "What the hell was that thing?" I gasped, risking a quick look. Back as we tore through the brush, those glowing eyes cut through the dark, huge, unnatural, like something Campinos had conjured up from my nightmares. My stomach flipped, fear sinking its teeth deep. "It's your guilt," Anya said, her voice ragged but certain as she ducked a branch. "Your past. Given shape by the forest, it's hunting you. We've got to keep moving." She didn't slow, dragging me deeper into the mess, and I realized she wasn't guessing. She knew this place too well. The earth shook again, harder, and I stumbled, catching myself on a trunk, its bark rough and cold under my palm. My shadow was everywhere now, splitting, stretching across. The trees twisting like it was trying to pull me apart, a dark reflection I couldn't escape. "I can't outrun this," I yelled, panic clawing up my throat, my legs burning from the sprint. "You don't have to," Anya snapped back, spinning to face me, her eyes wild but fierce. "It's Jason, your regret. Face it, or it'll never stop." Her words hit like a slap, raw and urgent. "Jason," I choked out, my chest tightening as memories flooded in. His stupid grin, our fights, then the wreck, the blood on my hands as I tried to pull him free. No, this isn't him. But even as I shouted, I saw it, the shape shifting, taking his form, warped and dark, eyes glowing like embers. Anya grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at her through the blur of tears. It's not him, it's you. The forest is twisting. You're pain into this thing. You've got to let it go. Her voice pierced the chaos, steady and fierce, like she'd fought her own shadows too. The growl turned into his voice. Why didn't you save me? Deep and twisted, echoing through the trees, and I froze, guilt crashing over me like a wave. I tried, I screamed, my voice breaking, tears spilling hot down my face. I tried so damn hard, Jason, I wasn't enough. Tell him the truth, Anya yelled, her grip tightening, her eyes locked on mine. Face it, all of it. That's how we fight this. Her voice was a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge, and I turned to the shape, my heart pounding against my ribs. I'm sorry. I shouted raw and loud, the words tearing out of me like a wound reopening. I loved you, I still do, but I'm done letting this eat me alive. My chest heaved, the weight of years spilling out, and I felt the shadow flinch, its edges fraying just a bit. Another figure stepped from the dark, Delia, my old friend, her face cold and twisted. You left me, she hissed, her voice cutting deep, dragging up more guilt, her struggles, my silence, the way I'd walked away. The forest wasn't letting up, piling it on thick. I screwed up, Delia, I yelled, my voice hoarse. I should have stayed. I'm sorry, but I'm here now. I'm not running. Tears burned my eyes, and Anya nodded fierce. Keep going. It's weakening. The shadows flickered, losing their grip. The forest roared, the ground splitting under us, and a shimmer glowed where Jason stood. Faint, eerie, like a crack, in the dark. What's that? I gasped, pointing, my voice shaky. A piece of this, Anya said, cautious. Maybe our way in, or out. The shapes, Jason, Delia, screamed, their forms breaking apart, and the clearing stilled, the shadows pulling back. I dropped to my knees, gasping, Anya beside me, her hand steady on my shoulder. You faced them, she said, soft but heavy, and I knew this was just the start. We staggered out of the clearing, the forest too quiet, and I clutched the pendant, Jason's, old charm, cold and scratched, glowing faintly in my hand. Anya's flashlight shook as we moved, her breath ragged beside me, and my chest ached, hollowed out from facing them. You okay? She asked, glancing over, her voice low and rough. I nodded, barely holding it together. Yeah? You? My throat was tight. Jason's real face, his grin, not that twisted thing, stuck in my head, and Delia's too, haunting me still. The pendant felt heavy, a piece of him I shouldn't have found here. How's this here? I muttered, my voice trembling. The forest keeps what it takes, Anya said, grim. Jason, trapped, maybe more. Her words sank in, cold and hard. I gripped it tighter, my gut twisting. So it's got him, Delia, too? My head spun. Had I freed them, or just kicked the hornet's nest? It's bigger than that, Anya replied, her eyes dark. Everyone it's touched, us included. Her voice carried weight I couldn't ignore. The station loomed. Ahead, a dim light cutting the dark, and I picked up the pace, needing walls, something solid. We've got to stop this, I said, unlocking the door, my legs shaky but my resolve firm. For good. Anya dropped into a chair inside, rubbing her face. Exhaustion etched deep. Yeah, but it's pissed now. It's not done. Her tone was heavy, and I felt it too. Campinos wasn't letting us off easy, not after we'd pushed back like that. I set the pendant on the table, its faint glow staring back like an eye. What's your deal? I asked, sharp. You know too much, she sighed, slow and tired. My sister, gone here years back, I've been chasing her. Her voice cracked, raw with pain. So it's got us both, I said, low, the truth settling in like a stone. Jason, Delia, your sister, keeping them all. My stomach sank. but it sparked something too. I wasn't letting this forest win, not while I had breath. The air hummed outside, faint but there, a warning in my bones. "We've got to start," I said, firm despite the shake in my hands. "This pendant, it's our shot." My voice steadied, resolve kicking in, a fire I hadn't felt before. Anya touched it, cautious, her fingers hovering. "Maybe. We go back, hit the heart, end it. But it's risky." Her eyes were fierce, and I saw the same fight in her I felt, a need to finish this, no matter what. The station felt flimsy, the quiet a lie. "We need more. Info. Gear," I said, rough, pacing the small space. "Next. Time. We're ready." My chest tightened, but I wasn't backing down. Not from this. She stood, slinging her pack over her shoulder, her jaw tight. "We'll dig, find what we need. It's not taking us." Her voice was steel, and I nodded, that grit locking in, pushing the fear down where it couldn't touch me. The pendant pulsed, a cold link to the dark we'd face again, and Campinos waited outside, alive and mad. We'd heard it, pushed it back, but it wasn't down, not yet. And I knew it had come roaring back, meaner than ever. With Anya beside me, I wasn't running, not from my past, not from this fight. The forest was quiet now, catching its breath. But we'd be ready when it woke up, pendant or not, together against whatever it threw our way. The gray dawn seeped into the station, cold and thin, casting weak shadows across the floor where I sat, pendant in hand. Anya slept on the cot, her notebook sprawled open beside her, pages marked with hasty scratches, and I kept watch, too wired to close my eyes, the forest's hum still buzzing in my ears. The quiet was deceptive. I felt it deep in my gut, a coiled tension waiting to snap. Campinos was out there, licking its wounds, and the pendant sat heavy, a dead thing now but tied to what we'd faced. Jason's charm, a piece of him trapped in this nightmare. I rubbed my chest, the ache sharper now, a scar from letting them go. Jason's laugh, Delia's voice, cut loose but leaving a hollow spot behind. "We stopped it, right?" I muttered to myself, my voice rough in the stillness, half hoping it was true, half knowing it wasn't. Anya stirred, sitting up slow, her hair a mess, but her eyes sharp as she caught me staring out the window. "You didn't sleep," she said, smirking faintly, not a question. I shrugged, throat tight. "Too much rattling up here." I tapped my head and she nodded, understanding without pushing. She grabbed her notebook, flipping it open with a purpose that cut through the haze. "The pendant, it's a key, Darius." "To the heart, maybe more," she said, her voice steady, fingers tracing lines of cramped writing. "We've got to figure it out, fast." I held it up, its cold biting my skin, the faint glow barely there now. "Jason's, how did it end up here?" My voice trembled, questions piling up like storm clouds. And she frowned, leaning closer. "The forest keeps pieces. Him, my sister, bits of the past. It's not over." "We go back," I said, my tone firm despite the shake in my hands, resolve kicking in like a switch flipping. "Find the shimmer, end this thing." I stood, pacing the small room, needing to move, to do something against the weight pressing down. Anya nodded, her eyes fierce, burning with the same fire I felt deep inside. "Full in. Together. We've got the pendant each other. We'll hit it where it hurts." She stood too, slinging her pack over her shoulder, ready to dive back into the fight. The forest buzzed outside, a low hum vibrating through the floor, a warning I couldn't ignore. "We need more. Stories. Maps. Gear," I said, my voice rough but steady, the plan forming as I spoke. "Next time we hit it hard. No half measures," she smirked, tired but fierce, grabbing a knife from her pack. "We'll dig, find what we need. It's not taking us, not without a damn fight." Her voice was steel, cutting through the doubt, and I nodded, that grit locking in tight, pushing the fear aside. The station felt flimsy, the walls paper-thin against Campinos' pulse, and I grabbed my coat, restless, the pendant heavy in my pocket. "Let's get ready," I said, firm, feeling the weight of it all but standing taller under it. We're not waiting for it to come to us. The trees swayed outside, slow and steady, their branches whispering in the wind, and I knew they were watching, plotting our next stumble. The pendant pulsed faintly, a cold link to the dark we'd face again, pulling me back to the heart. Campinos was out there, alive and waiting, its silence a taunt I couldn't trust. We'd heard it, pushed it back into the shadows, but it wasn't down, not yet. And I felt it in my bones, a storm brewing just out of sight. With Anya beside me, her resolve mirroring mine, I wasn't running. Not from my past, not from this fight. The forest was catching its breath, but we'd be ready when it roared back, ready to face it, end it, together, whatever the hell it took.